Greetings all, Ferrariman601 here. Welcome to an Automobilista 2 live stream. I am going to pause now while we wait to confirm that the stream is in fact live and that you can actually hear me. Because if either one of those things is not quite met, you're going to be seeing a whole bunch of nonsense and it's not going to make much sense to you. And I've got a good talk back on the voice audio anyway, so that's good. And I can see that we have a cogent and cohesive image on screen. Checking to see that it will update here in real time. And yes, it is. Beautiful. All right, so those of you who have been following the development and release of Automobilista 2, undoubtedly you've seen the releases about adding some content to the game. First of all, we had a new V10 Formula 1 car added, I believe, last week or 2 weeks ago, something like that. But anyway, we have another Generation 1 Formula V10 car, which is kind of a strange, deformed love child of the Williams FW18, the Ferrari 310, and I guess the Benetton B195, B196 as well. See some echoes of Benetton in that car. But we also have now an officially licensed, honest-to-goodness, real-world Formula 1 car in AMS2, and it takes the form of the McLaren MP4 and that is what we are shaking down today. I have not driven the car yet, so I have no real idea of what they have done with it. I do know that it has been produced with McLaren's blessing, quite obviously, as they have branded it as a McLaren. So evidently we do have licensing and all of that stuff squared away. But it's a new bit of territory for AMS because this is the first real-world car that they really have in there. We do have the Brabham, the what is it, BT something? it's a Gordon Murray Brabham, and it is one of the first ones that he designed, I believe, for Brabham. That car is in the game. But aside from that, we don't have any other official Formula 1 cars in the game. We do have the Formula Reiza, which is very loosely based on what looks to be the Red Bull RB10. No, the RB6. But other than that, it's just really their own interpretations of Formula 1-esque cars that have a smattering of decades behind them in terms of, we got 60s cars, 70s, 80s, 90s, and obviously modern day as well. But this is an official one, an officially licensed one, and we will see. Alphonic, yes, the MP4 is a free car. If you have AMS2, it will be queued up as an update in your Steam profile. Just download the update, and it will be there. The download size is just over 1,000 megabytes, so just over 1 gigabyte in size there. I think it was 1,004. But it is free to those of you who already own the game. In any regard, we're here to drive the thing, so let's drive the thing. I have yet to turn a wheel in it, so I don't really know what we're going to be seeing. I'm hoping that we're going to see, well, a McLaren that handles vaguely like a 1997 Formula 1 car. And we have two wonderful examples of cars of this season in Assetto Corsa, in VRC's Ferrari F310B and the Williams FW19. The two real protagonists of this season. But now we have, in AMS2, we have got the McLaren MP4 Let's see if it's worth anything. Fire it up here. All right, we have got throttle control. And I guess we're going to see how it works here. We are at Silverstone, by the way, the 2001 version of Silverstone, so should be reasonably resemblant of what the 1997 event looked like. Let's see what we've got going on here. Have a 6-speed gearbox in this car. Semi-auto, of course. No blip required on the downshift. The sounds are very, very reminiscent of the sounds in the McLaren MP4 13 DLC, official McLaren DLC that was included for R Factor 2 about a year ago now, maybe a little bit longer ago. I have to wonder if, because that car was also developed with McLaren's blessing, I have to wonder if the sounds were as well, and they basically migrated them for this car. Of course, only 1 year between that car and this one. The Abbey chicane. The bridge. I'm hoping that bridge will be nearly flat when we properly get up to speed here. So far it's handling as you would expect at a very reduced pace here, but steering is very responsive, one-to-one correspondence with my actual inputs. Let's rev it to the max here. Just default setup. I've got no temperature really in the front tires yet. Being very deliberate here, trying to build temperature in the front axle. To the veil. Engine power feels just about right. Car is rated at 750 horsepower in the select screen. Definitely believable. How's bridge? Not flat. Not yet, anyway. Don't know if it will be. But big slicks here in the dry. 97 the last year, 4 slicks until 2009, if you can believe it. So far, pretty communicative here. It goes, it stops, it turns. Very good force feedback. All the little bumps that you can see here from our perspective in the cockpit, I'm feeling all of those through the steering. Steering weight is reasonably heavy, actually. I like that. Bridge is now flat, but Priory is never flat. Left field basically the same as it is today. Woodcut obviously the same as it is today. Woodcut hasn't changed in 70 years. Trying to carry some more speed there through Cops. Maggots and Beckett's. Beckett's second element and Chapel here onto the Hanger Straight. You know, for a default setup car, this is actually pretty good. Gearing is a bit long for the downforce that we're carrying, but not bad. Sounds are very good. They are not one-to-one with the R Factor 2 MP4 13 sounds, but they're very close. You would expect that, though. That's a Mercedes engine car. This is a Mercedes engine car, and only 1 year between them. bridge is very nicely flat now. Priory, one of those corners that I think really needed to be preserved. Everybody laments the loss of bridge because speed, but Priory was really a corner that the drivers, the best drivers anyway, really attacked it. Still breaking it downshift for Copse. And of course, when you run off like that, that reminds me very much of what Jacques Villeneuve did in France in '96. I think it was '96 anyway. He's going through the Grand Coupe there. He just let it drift out a little bit wide, and the gravel took him all the way into the wall. Now that we've taken the under tray off of the car, I don't think we have any damage. The game's not that realistic in terms of simulating damage, but you know, the thing feels good. It really does. It goes, it stops, it turns. The engine power is really enough, and you get decent traction there at medium speed, heading through the Vale there. The big stops, like here coming into Abbey, it's very stable. The default setup puts brake pressure at 90%. That's where we're running now. It seems okay. It really, really does. Now, my opinions of AMS2 are very mixed. Some cars feel really good. And so far, I'm thinking that this is one of those cars that feels really good. It's doing everything that I expect it to do. And if I had a car that handled like this on Assetto Corsa, let's say, I'd be pleased with it. So I'm pleased with this one here. But some other things in AMS2, I think there's a maxim that's starting to develop in terms of the tracks being better than the cars. That generally holds true. But this one here, it's an exception to that rule, as are most of the Formula Classics. The turbocharged Formula Classics are very, very strange to me. They feel like they have about 10,000 horsepower because they can accelerate from 0 to 330 in about 3 seconds. It's ridiculous. They're completely wrong, but the Formula V10s are good. Formula V12 is good. The Formula Resa is good. And the Formula Ultimate, which is basically a 2019-2020 F1 car, feels reasonable enough. Hybrid system is utterly broken, but the rest of it feels good enough. And this one here, it's just high-speed stuff. You got a lot of downforce, and you'd expect that. And then the slick tires for the medium-speed stuff, they really grip hard. It's pretty good. See, can we overwhelm the rear a little bit? Yes, you can. You have to respect the throttle. That's good. Very nice there. Car got a little squirrely over the exit curbs. No problem. A bit of a lift there. Second part of Beckett's. Beckett's here using all the apex curb. In Chapel, you can use all this curb. Nice. Hanger, there is no curbing here. Gearing is a little long on default setup for this track with this aero trip. But so far, so good. Just feeding the power in through second gear through Vale, and then you can get on it for the exit. This is the start-finish straight nowadays. Abbey chicane, the modern track turns right here. Not bad, not bad. No idea what my pace is. I've got to be off of it. Throttle response, though, is very good, basically instantaneous. And again, that steering response is fantastic as well. I'll dive into the pits because I know we don't have all that much fuel on board. Not bad, not bad. I do not like how this game handles pit stops. You lose all control of the car when you get into the pits, and then the computer takes over and it just does whatever it wants to do. I don't like it. And then here in a test session pit stop, there's basically no way to recover from this, and you've got to pause menu your way back to the box. 126.581. It's our best time thus far. What have we here? I just want to compare this to the 1997 pole times, and then we'll see. Okay, we're basically on race pace 1997. Schumacher's fastest lap was a 124.480. Pole position was a 121.598. So that was set by Jacques Villeneuve in a different car, so who knows. But we're not too far off of race pace right now. Anyway, now we've got a chance to take a look at the chat here, and there are 41 people here. Holy cow. All right. That's something. Shut the engine down so we can hear ourselves think here. Huh. Right. 41 people here. This is a pretty big live stream. Panzer F1, new fan here. Why is a Ferrari man driving a McLaren? Fake news if you ask me. Disliked. Oh, Canada. That's all I have to say to you. 8802 Gator. This is a Ferrari so-called man 601 stream. What year is it? It's 2020. It's literally 2020, and if you disagree with me, you should censored for YouTube. Yes. Cool. Yes, Nopo, good stint for default setup. All right. Yes, so I've caught up with all the messages now in the live chat. Still 32 of you watching. Cool. Totally unannounced stream here, so that's actually a really good showing. Cool. Yeah, I really am. I'm surprised by this. You know, first run in the car to be on race pace on default setup. That ain't too bad. We shut the engine off if we take the fuel out? No, because it goes to 1 liter. Well, that kind of sucks, but that's okay. The car has enough downforce right now, but it feels like it has a little bit too much. Suspension is good. Brake pressure, we'll raise that a touch to 95. Brake bias was okay. No idea what the cooling was doing, but the car didn't blow up, so I'm gonna assume that was good. Our suspension setup is all on default here. Drivetrain, the gearing is a bit long. So we'll change that. Preload on the differential, we'll take that down. I want a bit more slip. Change all of that. So that ain't bad. Zelda AC Fan 17. Hey there, Mr. Ferrariman. Did you know that this car had 2 brake pedals? Yes, indeed I did. There was, I forget what they called it. There was some sort of jargony term that they called it, but the long and short of it was McLaren installed a second brake pedal in this car to operate one of the rear brakes only. So it would operate the rear brakes on one side. And the rationale of that was to keep the rear end more stable through lower speed corners and give them better turn in. And the FIA caught wind of that after the car dropped out of a race, and some photographer stuck his camera into the cockpit down the footwell, and he took a picture of it, and they found 2 brake pedals in there. The Formula One cars, for the most part by this point, had all migrated the clutch control to the steering wheel. So much like they still have today, they had paddles on the back of the steering wheel for the gears as well as for the clutch actuation. And normally in a car like this, they don't use the clutch once they're underway. So they had space in the footwell for a second brake pedal. The FIA got wind of it via that photographer. They said it was illegal because they were saying that it had basically an aerodynamic benefit, which is nonsense. It also, I think, fell afoul of the regulation that said only 2 wheels, and those 2 wheels being the front wheels, can be steered. Even though I would argue that a differential is a steering device, and a differential obviously on an F1 car acts on the rear axle only. But what do I know? I'm just, whatever. I'm just an observer. Sage of Light, yes, this is the actual MP412. It is not a reskinned Formula V10. And I agree with you, it is not it is not something I would expect from AMS2. They've been giving us some good cars, but generic ones, or at least branded as generic cars. Like the Formula V12 is obviously the Ferrari 412 T2 from '95. The Gen 1 Formula V10 that we got, this car also is actually coded in the game as a Gen 1 V10, but it is called the McLaren MP412, and it is the MP412. It's got its own model, own sounds, own physics and characteristics, everything. But no, this is a new one going for official branding here. There are other cars in the game that are officially branded as well. It's not unique, but it's the first F1 car, modern-ish F1 car anyway, that we have that is branded as one. So that's pretty cool. Will they add late 2000s, HJR asks. I don't know. I think that their Formula Race is it's loosely based on the Red Bull RB6 from 2010, but there's only one of them. So it's basically the RB6 Red Bull. I don't know if they're going to be adding more of those. I don't know if they have any plans to add the V8 cars from 2006 through 2008, which would be interesting. I also don't know if they're going to add a Gen 3 Formula V10 to go for the 2002 to 2005 V10 cars, but that might be cool. Have those on groove tires. That would be an experience. Please base it off the MP420 if they choose to do that. I mean, McLaren influence, come on. Use those connections. 2006, 2008 spec car would be cool. Ah, yes, the fiddle brake. Unfortunately, we don't have that. And even if I had the capacity to map a control to that, I would then lose my clutch because unlike the upper crust of the sim racing world, I still use a foot clutch because that's what a clutch should be. I think steering wheel paddle clutches are fake news, and they should be banned from the world because they're fake. But regardless, yeah, can we better our lap time here? There are no starter sound effects, so the engine just comes to life. It idles here at 42.49. Bring the clutch in, it idles at 43.24. We took some fuel out, we took some wing out, so we'll see if the car's faster. Made some adjustments to the gearbox. I will say that one thing I generally do like about the open wheelers here in AMS2 is the immersion factor. Just visually and in terms of the sounds, it does make a nice picture. Force feedback is nice. Bridge still flat? Yes, bridge is still flat. All right, let's give it some on a couple of laps here and see if we can better our time. We are going to be quicker in a straight line now, I know that much. was a mess. But I do love the shape of this steering wheel. The McLaren steering wheels from this era and really going all the way up to 2001, 2002. They look cool. I like that butterfly shape. If I could have a steering wheel made for my TSPC to resemble that design, I'd be very pleased with it. Still a little tentative on braking in this car. I just don't know it quite well yet. But I do have to say this is not the first time that I have driven an approximation of the MP412. I do remember there was a 1997 F1 mod available for R-Factor 1 all the way back in the late 2000s. And I did drive this car in there. Obviously, it's a complete solar system away from what this is now. Just technology has moved on so much, but vaguely familiar in some respects. That's pretty cool. Not bad, not bad. It's also been about a week since I've driven it all. Aside from driving in the real world, yeah, I've been flying planes all week, so not a bad way to return to a more terrestrial cockpit. Front axle gives plenty of feedback. You know exactly where the limit is. A little bit of oversteer there at medium speed. Deal with that. But the car does feel very stable, very planted. Again, the slick tires go a long way into creating that. BRC's 1997 cars in Assetto Corsa feel very similar. They make you respect the throttle for sure, but they've got a lot of downforce for how old they are, and the slick tires go a long way to that high-speed grip as well. So this is very similar. If you've driven those, this feels good to you. It's going to be familiar right away. And the fact that I'm making a comparison like that should tell you all you need to know. This is pretty awesome. I think the car is starting to cough here in terms of running out of gas. Only put like 4 or 5 laps in it. Yeah, she's not gonna make it home unless we slow down a lot. See, will it shut down if we cut the clutch in? Not quite. But so far, so good. I'm reasonably pleased with all this. Not going to go into the box. All right, that's pretty good. Definitely pretty good. Let's see. Todd McDanger, I think we're in the golden age of sim. You know, we're kind of there. Definitely we are kind of there. I mean, we still have Assetto Corsa, which is now 6 years old, and it's still absolutely phenomenal. Thanks almost exclusively at this point to the community, both the privateer freeware modders as well as the more professional paid modders. They are really keeping that sim alive. Obviously, we still have R-Factor 1, which is still alive, and people are still producing content for it. R-Factor 2 is really getting there. Obviously, we've got AMS and AMS2. AMS2 is really the only one of these that I've ever driven because AMS1 just never ran for me. And we have iRacing on the ultimate side of payware. And really, we've got so many different options. If you want to have a go in Pretend Race Car, throw in their ACC as well. Which, if tin tops are more your thing, you're not going to get a better tin top experience, and I'll include iRacing in that as well. ACC is just it's a one-trick pony, but it knows its one trick really, really well. So there's that as well. It's HJR, why they have that rubber where the Merc logo is? Actually, they have that rubber there on the steering wheel because in 1995 at Adelaide, Mika Hakkinen was very nearly killed in a crash in qualifying wherein he had a tire go down basically the fastest part of the track, and he went to go brake and turn into a right-hand corner, and of course the car just spun. It was catapulted up in the air over the backside of a curb, and then it crashed into an only one-layer thick tire barrier. And in the impact, Mika's head was thrown forward into the steering wheel. No Hans device in these days. And that impact with the steering wheel caused a skull fracture, in addition to the basilar skull fracture that was suffered when his head was just thrown forward at that speed. And had it not been for the quick thinking of the rescue workers at the track who performed an emergency tracheotomy to resuscitate Hakkinen, he would have died right there in the car. But after that accident, McLaren and a few other teams as well took it upon themselves to add a physical bolster to the front of the steering wheel, because remember, in these days there still was no Hans device, so if drivers had a high-speed frontal impact, their heads were going to get thrown forward, and in most cases they'd get thrown forward far enough, because remember, your body is very elastic, especially when a lot of force is applied to it like that, so the head and neck would stretch to the point where they would hit the steering wheel with their head in an impact like that. And I think a lot of us don't realize the forces involved in that sort of an impact, but you go into, even if it's a soft barrier and you go into it at over 100 miles an hour, you're not going to be able to resist a force of 80 Gs in that instantaneous acceleration when you hit the wall. So that's why that's there. Yeah, Mika Hakkinen was definitely a lucky boy that day. And as far as I know, he doesn't have really any significant long-standing ill effects from that accident. I think he lost a little bit of his hearing because he did have a brain injury, and I think he also developed a slight speech impediment because of it. But he regained all of his faculties, and obviously a couple of years later he went on to win 2 world championships. So it certainly didn't make him any slower. Yes, I guarantee in typical Finnish fashion, he probably laughed it off once he recovered. Absolutely he did. Absolutely he did. And yes, Dr. Sid Watkins, definitely a legend. He is one of the guys who we have to thank for making motorsports safety and motorsports medical facilities what they are today. The other guys over here in the United States, they really, really did a job. I mean, it wasn't the sort of thing that that people thought about in those days. But drivers used to be killed basically on a weekly basis in a lot of regards, because the cars were not safe at all. The tracks were woefully inadequate in terms of dealing with crashes, and there was not much in the way of emergency medical or fire response or really anything. Nowadays, we've got medical facilities at the racetrack. We've got all kinds of things. We've got medevac helicopters, at least one of them standing by at all times. They've gone away. And, of course, the car construction as well has gone absolutely crazy. But Dr. Watkins and Dr. Steve Olvey here in the United States, they're the guys who really turned motorsport safety into what it became. Sage of Light, how do you like Imola being back on the calendar? I still can't quite believe it. We're going to Imola, folks. What I don't like about what they're planning for the Imola weekend is they're getting rid of Friday practice. So Saturday is going to be a single practice session and qualifying. You haven't been to this track in 15 years. The last San Marino Grand Prix, the last time Formula One went to Imola was 2006. None of the teams that are even still in F1 who participated in that race, none of the teams have good data anymore because the track, first of all, has changed since then a little bit. And even if the track were the same, the cars were almost entirely different from what they are today. Different engines, different tires, groove tires, not nearly as much downforce as they have now. The cars today are heavier. Especially at the start of the race, they're a lot heavier. Tires totally different. And none of the current Formula One drivers, with the exception of Kimi Räikkönen, has ever driven Imola in a race-ready Formula One car. And you're going to get rid of 2 practice sessions. That, to me, does not seem prudent, especially when you've got Imola being the track that it is. There's not a whole lot of runoff. It's very high speed. And, of course, it's infamous for being the place where quite a few racing drivers died in high-speed accidents. So, I don't know. But I am excited that we're getting it back on the calendar. And there is no Tamburello, and the high curbs are kind of there, kind of not. The highest curbs are at Variante Alta, which is a very slow corner nowadays. It's even slower than it was in 2006, the last time that they were there. But an area of concern would be Piratella, which is off camber, first of all, and there's not too much run out on the outside there. So if you did have somebody break a front wing or something like that, and they don't know it until they're there, they're going to go off at a very advanced rate of knots. Acqua Minerali as well, particularly the first element of it. If the track conditions are right, that's going to be flat, no question about it. So again, it's a compression zone. It's basically the same sort of compression as you get going through the end of Eau Rouge, and then as you head up the hill toward Rédillon there at Spa. Basically the same sort of loads in the car, but they're also going through a 90-degree corner at the same time. So there's no room for anything to go wrong. Otherwise, it's going to be an enormous accident. So I don't like that they have basically stopped an entire day of running, because I think that not only the drivers, but I think the teams really need to comprehend the sort of loading that the car is going to be under, because if a Formula One car nowadays is generating at least 4 times its weight in downforce at maximum speed. So that's a lot of compression load going through the suspension. There's a lot of compression load going through the suspension pickup points in the chassis, especially on the front end. So could you actually break a chassis going through something like that flat out? It's possible. I don't know. And yes, Turkey. Have we gotten official confirmation of Turkey? I saw that there was some very, very strong speculation of it this past week. Did they ever confirm a Turkish Grand Prix? I want to say that they did, but I don't remember for sure. But I definitely saw the hype of it. And Turkey would also be another fantastic addition to the calendar. Last time we were there was 2011, so that was 9 years ago. Imola was 15 years ago. Turkey was 9 years ago. Again, some fundamentally different cars in that era as well. They were near as quick as they are today. But I think that'll be less of an adjustment for the teams to make, because it is a much more modern circuit. There is a lot of runoff there. I assume the track surface is still in good condition. So and Turkey is still used as well. I mean, a lot of tin tops run there now, but I'm sure that they've had reasonably quick open wheelers through there recently as well. So I'm sure the curbing is in good shape. Imola, though, I mean, yeah, they've run there, and it's still an FIA Grade 1 circuit, of course, but they just don't have good data on Imola anymore. Not that they have it on Turkey either, but I think it's a little bit less critical. And do you remember Turkey being added to the calendar back in 2005? I remember watching the first Turkish Grand Prix and being absolutely gobsmacked at how fast the McLarens were through Turn 8. And, of course, Montoya, he had a flat spot later on in the race, and he lost the position there to Alonso. He was in second, I think it was. Yeah, he was in second, and then I just remember on the radio after the race ended on the cool-down lap, and Kimi was asking, I think, who was his engineer? Was it Mark Slade, his engineer in that era? But I remember Kimi on the radio saying, what happened there on the last lap? Montoya was second. And then they had to explain to him that he had lost it in 8 on the last lap. So Kimi's championship charge in 2005 undermined by reliability half the time and undermined by circumstance in the other half of the time. Yep, Turkey and China are about the same age. The circuits were built at around the same time. China's first race was at the end of the 2004 season, and then Turkey came on mid-year 2005, so basically around the same time. And, of course, designed by the same architect and, I assume, constructed by a lot of the same firms. Anyway, we never actually went to see our lap time. 125.085 here. We're still nowhere near pole position, which is kind of sad. Yeah, 121.598 was pole position for that 1997 British Grand Prix. We're not even on fastest lap pace. 1:24.480 was Michael Schumacher's lap. Then again, we are in the McLaren as well, which was not a front-running car in 1997. They only took their... I know Mika Häkkinen won the European Grand Prix at Jerez, which was the last round of the season. He had no business winning the race, but Jacques Villeneuve let both McLarens by, and Mika Häkkinen happened to be in P1 there. What happens if we go into replay? Do we actually see the entire run? No, it's just a replay of the last 2 minutes. Boring. It's one thing I don't like about AMS. They have a terrible replay system. Unless you do a race session, even if it's just you out on track, you don't get the full run in the replay, which is annoying as hell. And you don't even get good camera angles in the replay. Like you get the cockpit, you get the chase cam, you get a roof cam, which doesn't show you much of anything. Bonnet, which shows you nothing. Bumper shows you nothing. Onboard shows you the same as the roof cam, which is stupid. Trackside. Yeah, I mean, you get some, but for the most part, it's just kind of crap, really. Which I'm not pleased about any of this. I mean, I guess this would be the best view, but I wish that you had more camera options here. And yes, they do need an adjustable replay time limit like they have in AC. That's just a wee bit annoying. I feel like we can afford to lose more downforce. Yeah, I mean, obviously the physics are much more important than anything else. If you're talking about a racing sim, if the physics aren't there, then anything else might as well not be there too. But yeah, the physics are getting to a point now on a lot of cars where they feel good. It wasn't quite that way at release, but it is there now in a lot of cars anyway. So if that continues, I'll be pleased. Then they can add the other stuff later. Ah, crap. Well, I hope Silverstone just saved some money on their landscaping. That's what I get for trying to look at something. It's also kind of hard to believe. 2001. 19 years ago? What? I remember 2001 vividly. Not mean to downshift into first there. There it is. I always do that. There's a bright section of painted grass there toward the entrance of Stowe that I always think is the apex, and it's not. Definitely feels like we can go quicker now. Steering is razor sharp, though. It's fantastic. Not bad, not bad at all. This is a winner. I mean, any decently done V10 Formula One car is going to be a winner in my book, but yeah, this really is. I predict a lot of fun with this one. My brain keeps tricking me. I keep thinking that I see tire flecks across the front axle. This is something that I've noted in other cars in AMS2 as well, but am I making that up, or is that a real thing? Does it model tire flecks? Because if it does, even cooler. Not bad. Not bad at all. What is the time? 124.920. We're still not at the fastest lap of the race. But at least we're in the same second now. But not bad. Not bad at all. The car is it's free. If you already own AMS2, the car is free. It's a free update that you'll load through your Steam client if that's how you bought the game. I don't know what happens if you bought the game in another way, but I do know that it is free via Steam, and it is a free update to all owners of AMS2. If you didn't buy it through Steam, though, I would assume check your email inbox, because they will probably be giving you instructions on how to download the update. And yes, the 2001 configuration of Silverstone that we're at here, this is part of a DLC, as I believe was Hockenheim as well. It adds the current Hockenheim as well as a couple historic configurations, including a 2001 layout, coincidentally, which also was the last time that Hockenheim was used on the calendar when it had the long straights. Obviously, Hockenheim remained on the calendar for quite a while after that, but chopped down into its current configuration. There is an older version of Silverstone available for Assetto Corsa. Unfortunately, I've driven it, and I found it to be very, very, very much inadequate in terms of what you really need from a well-made track today. I mean, it's a whole lot better than I could do. There's a reason why I don't make mods, because I don't know how. But, and of course, anybody who can make something, anything at all, you have my respect. However, if you're looking for a really high-fidelity reconstruction of what Silverstone was at around this time, that's not the mod for you. Unfortunately, it is the only one that we have. But, yeah, I mean, our best lap time here, 124.920. It's basically race pace. It's not qualifying pace by any means. I don't know if the car's capable of qualifying pace, because that was set by Villeneuve in the Williams, which was the best car of '97, and the McLaren most decidedly was not. But still, I don't think we could be 3 seconds off of pole position. But I don't know. Perhaps some more testing and learning about how this car works is in order. But that's all I wanted to do here. Just do a quick shakedown here. This was my first time driving the car, and I've got to say I'm very, very encouraged by what I see with it, because it's good. It's a real good one, and it reminds me a lot of the MP4 13 that you have in R Factor 2. That was also produced with McLaren's blessing, and this one, obviously officially licensed from McLaren as well. And I got to wonder if they're using any of McLaren's actual data in this as well, whatever they still have from '97. And, of course, I'm sure if they really wanted to do this car well, they would have been granted access to take a look at one at the McLaren factory. But be that as it may, that's all I wanted to do here today. And really, I want to get back to Flight Simulator, because that's a fantastic game if you haven't noticed. I keep making content with it, and I will keep making content with it because, yes. But, yeah. A lot more of you joined up to watch this stream than I had anticipated. So, first of all, thank you all very much for that. And I don't do live streams a lot, but when I do, it's cool to see that people are here. And, of course, I do like to hear from all of you. But, of course, I do think that it is time for me to call it quits, because the computer is starting to overheat a little bit. And I'm starting to overheat a little bit because I didn't turn on the air conditioning before I started all of this. But, yeah, until next time, though, I do thank you all very much for showing up, and I like your inputs here. And we will see you later on. Ferrariman601 saying thanks. And, of course,